Start. Kelly here on the Friday afternoon Yahoo Daily Fantasy Show, as always, at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific, with the world's #1 daily fantasy player, Alex Osimo Baker. Alex, what's going on?
Not much, man. Looking forward to another week of NFL here. Last week, a lot of the chalk just completely bombed, and me along with them. I don't know, so I'm looking forward to another chance here. How'd you fare?
Not too badly. I feel like I had a lot of Tampa Bay, and that didn't pan out well. But also had some other stacks in there that I think were pretty good. Had some Kirk exposure, which helped out a lot. But not a banner week, all told. I think I was probably down, but that's all right. That happens. Get back up, dust yourself off, ready for week 11. We got this season is quickly disappearing on us.
That's right, man. I think a wise man once said, "You get knocked down, you get up again. You're never gonna let them keep you down." Did I get that right?
I think it was Muhammad Ali, or it was
yeah, Muhammad Ali. That sounds right.
Mike Lombardi. I'm just my brain is dead here. I can't
it was Lombardi. I think you're right.
NFL history here. Nice. So if you haven't played on Yahoo yet, make sure you do go over there and check it out. Of course, you can use promo code AWESOMO for $30 in YSRP as a bonus. Hopefully you are playing on there, but if not, it's great. We have a 20K to first, 200K baller this week, 22,000 entries, $10 entry fee, which I'm a big fan of. Lower management fees, less pros. Everything about the Yahoo game is good. I really like the NBA contest as well. NHL, they've got everything over there. So make sure to stop on by and check it out. I think I really like what Yahoo's doing this year, and I think you're on the same page as me. Great product.
Yeah, I'm impressed by this 50K NBA tournament they got up here. These prize pools are just keep going up. So
they're not messing around. I think people like the fact that the management fee is a lot lower than other sites, and that's gonna, if you pay with your dollars and you say you want lower management fees and you play on sites with lower management fees, that's gonna help you out at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think specifically for NBA, I think a lot of guys will be playing every site, and we all know in basketball there's always someone out 10 minutes before lock. So if you're dedicating yourself to Yahoo, you're gonna have an edge over those guys who may be slower to react.
That is 100% true. Is it 10 minutes before lock? See, this is the problem. I really want to get into NBA DFS, but I also play NHL, and paying attention to both of those things. My God, is that time consuming? You got to have a nice night on the couch, I think.
Yeah, no hanging out with the significant other after lock. We got to be keeping up with the breaking news.
Yeah, 100% there, 100%. All right, so if you haven't watched this show before, what we do essentially is you and I are going to go through the 5 highest total games on the slate. We are going to talk about them, going to talk about the price points on Yahoo. And then at about the halfway mark, or a little past that, we're going to start building some lineups using your rankings and projections over on Yahoo. We will build one cash lineup that we will both put in we'll put in our GPP, sorry. You will put in the cash lineup. And then after that, we will do 2 GPP lineups, one kind of chalky, one with a couple pivots in there usually, and one that is a little bit more contrarian. So stay tuned for that as we get through it. But right now, let's start things off with the highest total game on the slate, which is actually a little bit surprising to me. The Baltimore Ravens hosting the Houston Texans. General thoughts on this one at all, Alex?
Man, Lamar Jackson just gets it done. It's crazy. His game log has to be one of the best ever. He's only gotten under 20 points 1 week. And we had no idea, man, at the start of the season that he would be the #1 quarterback of the year, right? Anyway, sorry, no one's gonna get that, but all right, so I think that he's a great fantasy player because these drives that he goes on with Baltimore, they run for more than 5 yards per attempt, and that just keeps them on the field. And they run a lot more plays than their opponents do. We didn't really see it last time because they're so successful in the plays they ran, but Houston should give you a little bit more of a tough matchup, and they're still projected for 27 points, so you gotta like it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so they have the highest implied total on the slate, I believe. So Let me just look that up and make sure I'm not like totally out to lunch there. But that's like I've been fading Lamar Jackson a little bit in GPPs just because it's been they don't have the highest total on the slate. They're tied for the second half total with New Orleans Saints 27.75 points, just behind the Oakland Raiders, which is just shocking. But I've been fading Lamar Jackson. I think because like it is like a little bit difficult to stack him up. You don't have the kind of the volume receivers that most other stackable offenses do. Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown are his two top targets, but that stack just goes off. It's really weird. It's like crazily concentrated and like really hyper effective from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I think people who have been stacking up with Lamar with one of these two guys each week have been having success, I think. And Marquise Brown looks like he might not even play this week, so that makes Mark Andrews more appealing. $22 isn't a great price for him because they don't throw the ball that much. But if you have Lamar, like I do most weeks, even though I don't love it, I think that maybe Mark Andrews could be a good play.
So we have him priced, Lamar Jackson priced at $41, which is quite expensive. He's got an A for points in your rankings and a C for value. Are you going to be? Is he more of a cash game play for you as well, or are you just off it and you're just playing him no matter what?
Yeah, I mean that salary of $41, like that's Christian McCaffrey territory, and there's a lot of great quarterbacks in the league. Lamar Jackson has been remarkable. But to really get to him, you need to find a lot of value options, and I'm not sure we have them on this slate. But I look forward to kind of figuring out which ones are the good cheap plays here.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like we have a lot of value options in smash spots. Anyways, we have some bad value options that could turn out to be good, but are also getting a lot of ownership. Kalen Ballage at $11, Brian Hill at $14. I think those are going to be the two most obvious spots for people to find value as well. We do have some like moderately and cheap price running backs. Leonard Fournette, which we will get into, I'm sure when we build our lineups, is just $23, and that's we're back to like massively underpricing Leonard Fournette for some reason. I don't really get that, but that's good for us because he is in a great spot against the Indianapolis Colts, who give up a ton of passes, a ton of targets and receptions to opposing running backs. So, what about the other side of this one? Are you? I'm guessing like Mark Ingram, not super exciting. Sorry on the Baltimore side. Anyone else on Baltimore catching your eye?
Yeah, Mark Ingram's gotten lucky with the touchdown so far this year. Probably a little bit overpriced. Houston, I think that Will Fuller is back at $17. Maybe he's a limited practice, I guess. So maybe questionable. So I think that if he plays, that he makes a nice value option there, and Kenny Stills, if he doesn't play, could be pretty nice. So I think there's some plays on both sides here. What do you? Which guy are you most interested in from Houston?
I mean, from Houston, I think that it'll be like I always like to. I want to check on the health of Will Fuller because I do think that he's one of those guys that can just break a slate. Let's just see what his. So he's $17. He's questionable. I believe he was a limited participant in practice yesterday, so I would expect him to play. But then, Will Fuller questionable. If he's not a full go, that's kind of tough. So I don't really know. I was actually really surprised to see this high total in this game at 50 points. I thought it would be more in the 47 range. But I guess with JJ Watt out, this Houston defense isn't great. The Baltimore defense, however, starting to get better. They're getting healthier in the secondary. Marlon Humphrey back. They got. Their other cornerback, his name escapes me right now, but he's back. And then Marcus Peters is actually playing pretty well this season. So I'm not super high on the Houston side of things. What about you?
Yeah, I think Baltimore's defense about average when you look at all the yardage per play. So that's not bad for Houston. The main thing that worries me about going to a team against Baltimore is the time of possession and the number of plays the team's able to get off. I think fewer drives in each game because Baltimore's drives are a lot longer than average. So I think that's why we're seeing Houston with this team total of about 23. Not the most inspiring total for them because we're used to them being one of the highest scoring teams on the slate. But I think that it's definitely worth taking some chances because they got some really high upside guys.
Yeah, makes total sense. And to your point on Ingram, I got a question for you. We have Mark Ingram projected for just 3% ownership, whereas we have Lamar Jackson projected for somewhere in the 20% range at a pretty high price. Now, Mark Ingram is second in the NFL in rushing attempts inside the 5-yard line. He has a really high touchdown rate, but that's also, as you said, luck. Is that a nice pivot off of the Lamar Jackson chalk in some GPPs, in the sense that if the game script does end up that the Baltimore Ravens are inside the 5 and he gets those red zone carries and maybe he gets 2 touchdowns, you're also taking something away from one of the chalkier quarterbacks in the slate, or is that just a bad play?
I mean, I think that there's something interesting there where it's like they can only score a certain number of touchdowns. If Lamar doesn't get them, then you're gonna have an edge over the guys who pick Lamar. I'm balking a little bit at this $22 price tag for Ingram, but I think that, I mean, when you compare him to a guy like Fournette who does everything, he's gonna pale in comparison. But there's some there's an interesting kind of correlation there that you're mentioning. I like that.
All right, sounds good. Of course, Fournette, I think is going to be a lock, as I said earlier. So I think if you're rostering Mark Ingram, it's more of like a pivot off a chalkier lineup or something like that. But all right, any final thoughts on this one? You got anything else standing out to you? Anything crazy?
I think there aren't any real great plays here, in my opinion. They're all good players, but they're priced up to where they should be. So I'm not seeing a huge advantage in going into this game.
That makes total sense to me, and that's kind of where I was at as well. So why don't we move it on to our next game? We have, let's see here, what's the second highest total? It is the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. New Orleans favored by 5.5 points, 50-point total. General thoughts on this one, Alex?
I mean, I usually really like going to Jameis Winston because they throw the ball so much, but last week they showed they can get it done on the ground too. I think Ronald Jones was the one that had the big week, and that was kind of frustrating to me, being heavy on Evans and Godwin. I mean, they are just at the peak price they're ever going to be, 36 and 32 this week, and they're facing a tough New Orleans defense. So I have to lean towards this being kind of the week to jump off the train here. Do you see this is a good pay-up option, or is it just way too expensive?
It is expensive, yeah. I do like it in a vacuum, but you were seeing some pretty high price points. Michael Thomas, $38 on the Tampa Bay side. Mike Evans is priced up. I think that's the highest he's been all year, $36. Of course, he can break a slate anytime. And then you have Godwin. One guy I am interested in a little bit is O.J. Howard at $13. We saw him have his best game of the entire season last week, and New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, isn't great at defending the tight end position. They're in the bottom third of the league. As well, we have Marshawn Lattimore out for the New Orleans Saints. That's going to up, I think, a little bit of the Tampa Bay offense, my exposure to them. They have a pretty weak secondary, and they have a pass funnel, and guess what Tampa Bay does well? They pass the ball well. So curious to see how O.J. Howard's ownership ends up, because I think that he is possibly a candidate for a really big bounce back in the second half here, especially if he can get going, put the injury woes behind him, and become the breakout player that we all thought he would be to start this season. So maybe try to get in a week early on that one. Is this a pay up to be contrarian spot? And if you were going to roster the typical Winston, Evans, Godwin stack, would you then bring it back with a Kamara or a Thomas? Or someone else?
Man, that is really breaking the bank. I think it's gonna hard to even fit in Fournette in that kind of lineup. You're gonna have to go with Balaj and Brian Hill probably, and man, it's just hard to really find an advantage going to these Tampa Bay guys. As much as I love them every week, they probably have a good chance of being the highest scoring offense, but I think that the public has been on them every week, and this might be the time to dig deeper, because this is certainly not the best matchup for them.
Sounds good. What about the New Orleans Saints side of this one? We know that Drew Brees has had his difficulties playing outside, playing away from New Orleans. His fantasy splits are more pronounced than your average quarterback. Thomas is priced up. Kamara is expensive-ish, but also going up against the number 2 run DVOA in the entire NFL. Do you have anything on New Orleans side that you like here?
Yeah, I think, this Tampa Bay game, certainly, I'm sure it will have great weather, so I'm not really worried about that. kind of having some FOMO being out here in Chicago. It's probably a lot nicer down there. So I think I again, these guys are super expensive, but Michael Thomas has just been sensational this year, like more than 100 yards a game. Kamara last week really disappointed, so maybe people are off him a little bit. And those are like the only two guys I'd really consider though, because Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn, not high volume guys, and they're not even the minimum, so pretty hard to land on them. Is there anyone sneaky on New Orleans you're looking at?
No, I don't think so. And I was kind of looking to see if like Ted Ginn Jr. was priced down at the bare min, or Traquan Smith was also at the bare min, but they're priced up in the $15 and $17 range, and those are not really good bargains for them. The only real discount you're getting there is on ownership. But I mean, Ted Ginn hasn't broken one off this year, and there's always that threat that he can be. But if you're not playing the percentages there, that's going to be a pretty high bust potential if you're rostering him or Traquan Smith. So I got to be careful with those. I'm with you on this. I think that the game is just a little bit too expensive, and we're still seeing a fair amount of ownership on a lot of these plays. So this might be a good spot to fade, even though the total is pretty high.
Yeah, I'd lean more towards the fade here too.
All right, let's move it on. Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Carolina Panthers. Falcons 5.5-point dog here to the Panthers, coming off a win against New Orleans, 49.5 total. Looks like that line's down to maybe 4.5, somewhere in that range. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons are without. Hey, we need this. We got to pause here and talk about this trade you offered me. This nonsense trade. I feel like you're in fantasy football jail here for the time. Alex found out about the Austin Hooper news and then just tried to pawn him off on me in a deal in our fantasy football league. That's thumbs down to this video if you think Alex should be banned from the league forever.
I mean, you gotta leave everything up to the person getting the trade request. Like if you maybe want Hooper for the playoffs,
he wouldn't pass his physical. There's no way that trade's going through. But the plus side, I have buried the hatchet here, and I have offered you a nice Todd Gurley for Hunter Henry deal here. Out of the kindness.
Wow, that gets me interested. But man, George Kittle is doubtful this week too, so I'd be tight end list.
I know. You got to think about it. Maybe I'll throw in with your hard. We'll talk. So let's get back to this because no one cares about our fantasy football league. But the Carolina Panthers 4.5-point dogs. 4.5-point favorite. One of the interesting things about this, I think, that I've noticed this year, that we talked a little bit about it last week. Atlanta's been really good at limiting opposing receptions to opposing backs this year. After being dead last in the NFL for 3 straight years, they are top 2, I believe. I don't know if that's an aberration. I don't know if they've changed their defensive scheme. They had to have changed something. So this isn't quite the smash spot that I once would have believed it was for Christian McCaffrey. What are you doing with this one generally? Am I crazy for that take? And just give me your general thoughts on this game as well.
I think McCaffrey being $41, that's certainly fadeable. The matchup is it's pretty nice. Carolina 27 team total versus Atlanta. Atlanta's defense has been stronger versus the run than the pass, so maybe not really playing to his strengths there, but he can get it done in the pass game as well. But DJ Moore was someone I was on last week, but his price at 22, that's probably where it should be. Curtis Samuel, a little bit overpriced here. So I'm really looking at these Atlanta guys. No Sanu, no Hooper. That should create more opportunities for some other guys. So how are you breaking this one down?
Yeah, so I think initially, like DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel are like a little bit overpriced here, I think. And I was kind of expecting them to be in like that $15 to $17, $19 range, and now they're in the $20 to $22 range. So that is less appealing as well. I don't think you're getting a great bargain on Kyle Allen at $27. You have him graded for C for points and B for value. I kind of like the Atlanta side of this one, actually. Julio Jones, just $29, and he's going to probably see an increase in targets with Hooper gone. Calvin Ridley priced up $22, but who knows what this offense is going to look like without Hooper. Assuming he is out, it looks like he's going to be gone for a month. So B grade for points, C grade for value for Calvin Ridley. But I do not hate an Atlanta Falcons stack here with a moderately priced Matt Ryan, bringing it back with someone like McCaffrey, even though that is super expensive.
I agree. I think that's nice. So Julio, that $29 price tag really sticks out. So you got to like that. And Calvin Ridley, like pretty reasonable to project that guy to be on the upswing now that the receiving options are limited. But the real value on this team, I mean, there are two: Russell Gage and Brian Hill. Russell Gage is taking over as the clear wide receiver 3, and Brian Hill, because of Freeman being injured, is kind of thrust into the workhorse role. So I think both of those guys make tremendous plays this week.
Yeah, so I kind of buried the lead before with Brian Hill. He is $14, super cheap. Of course, Devonta Freeman doubtful. I think he's been ruled out if he hasn't already been. Oh yeah, he has been ruled out. So Brian Hill doesn't really blow anyone away. I think with through the eye test, but had 20 attempts last week again at New Orleans. This is a really good spot for him. I highly doubt that they're going to be bringing in guys like Kenyon Barner very much. I think he probably, maybe Quadri Olesen sees a little bit of time, but for the most part, this is going to be a bell cow back scenario for Hill, right?
Yeah, I imagine Barner gets in a little bit. Atlanta, they typically love to run that 2 running back rotation with one guy getting about 60% of the work and the other 40%. But then again, Barner, I know you probably remember back when he was on the Patriots, he was third on the depth chart, but then they made a wide receiver the running back so they didn't have to play him. So I don't think that teams love this guy.
That says a lot about where he's at, I think. That's funny. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So, what are you doing just generally with Brian Hill this week?
I think he's a nice value. The spot is fine, and the price is really good. A great cash play, and in GPP is definitely one of the guys I'm going to be having a pretty healthy amount.
All right, fair enough. Final thoughts on this one. I should mention as well, Russell Gage, he got a season high in snaps last week, 62%, ran 42 routes, I believe, so pretty good. He's still third on the pecking order. Believe it or not, Calvin Ridley led the team in routes run and snap percentage. So I feel like this is a good spot to get in on Ridley, probably at lower ownership than should be. And maybe we'll get another 4-touchdown game out of him or whatever he had last year. Who knows?
That wouldn't be too bad. I kind of like Gage here because I see his average yards per catch is only 8. And that kind of indicates to me that maybe some of those tight end targets will be going to him instead. So
great point. And he has been targeted a lot in the last 2 games as well. 9 targets against Seattle, 5 targets against New Orleans. So really good bargain here. I think he may be making an appearance in our cash game lineups.
Nice.
All right, let's move it on. We got 2 games left here before we start building some lineups. The Dallas Cowboys at your Detroit Lions. 6.5-point favorites. Matt Stafford was just ruled out before we went live here. Is this finally the spot for Zeke Elliott, or are we just off completely?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, is this the spot for Jeff Driscoll? Because the answer is yes.
There, I'm all Driscoll, Galladay, Jones stacks, let me tell you.
Yeah. Elliott at 34, that's a tremendous price play. So I think he makes a great alternative to someone like McCaffrey at 41, where still an exceptional player, but you can get some better players around him.
Yeah, so one of the concerns I have about Zeke Elliott this week is just that he has really been taken out of the passing game recently. Only 0 targets and 3 targets in his last 2 games. Is that just an aberration? Are we going to see it's going to return to a normal amount of targets, right?
Yeah, what I look at generally are the routes. So let me pull it up on Pro Football Focus here. We have this media pass, so I can give you guys a look here. So what I'm going to look at is they have these snap counts broken down by play type. So Ezekiel Elliott ran routes on 35 of 49 passing plays. He was on the field for 70 of 71 plays last week. So those are really encouraging, even though he didn't get the targets.
Yeah, great point. So he has been hovering around the 70 to 80% offensive snap range for the entire season, up to 99% last week. I feel like the breakout's coming. Detroit obviously has a pretty bad run defense. They rank 31st in fantasy points allowed, 32nd in fantasy points allowed in PPR to opposing backs. They're without Matt Stafford. The game script here is pointing heavily towards a run-heavy approach. What am I missing? Anything? I feel like I'm going to be massively as much overweight as I can be on Zeke Elliott this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no reason to really shy away here. Like with Jeff Driscoll, the Lions are going to be they're going to have trouble keeping the ball. So I think picking on the Dallas run game, that's smart.
Now, on the flip side of this, I think one of the things I was kind of targeting earlier, one of the first stacks that I built this week was a Driscoll, Jones, Galladay stack, bringing it back with Zeke Elliott. The thinking being that Dallas might get up big, and those Driscoll might have to pass the ball. I didn't really hate what I saw from Driscoll last week. I thought he wasn't bad. He also runs a 5.6 40, so there is some rushing upside there. It's not like he's completely useless in the run game. So
is 5'6" supposed to be decent?
4.6 40.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, man, he sounds like he's about as fast as Phil Rivers.
He runs a 7-second 40. He's a young Tom Brady. So yes, I think he ran a 4.5 or something like that. So not bad.
Okay.
Faster than Cam Newton, I think I heard on a random podcast. I can't remember which one. So Marvin Jones Jr. $18, Kenny Galladay 22, and Driscoll 22. That's a cheap contrarian stack, is it not? The question is it a terrible decision?
I mean, there's always hope, especially like Detroit. Sorry, I'm trying to be as positive as I can be here. Dallas is a tough matchup. But the Lions are projected for about 20 points. I haven't seen the new line, but it's definitely tough. These guys are still priced up for where they should be with Stafford. I mean, none of these guys are really exceptional fantasy plays this year, and with Driscoll in, that hurts them a lot. So, man, I don't love it, but you might just be more daring than I am.
All right. Well, the one thing you don't want to hear when you're talking about a stack is whatever you just said about it being trying to find limited a little bit of positivity in it. So maybe you've convinced me to be off of it here. We'll see what the ownership is like. What about the rest of this Dallas Cowboys team? Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup all seem to be pretty decent bargains, pretty good plays here. You going to get to them this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think that a guy like Cooper, that he can break the slate any week, so worth taking some chances. I'm not really seeing anyone stand out a ton as far as price, but it's definitely worth taking some shots.
All right, I like it. Let's move it on. Last game before we start building some lineups, Cincinnati Bengals, Oakland Raiders. Oakland favored by 10.5 points, something crazy like that. And this one has a 48.5 total. Josh Jacobs, chalk week, possibly. What are your general thoughts on this one?
Oh, man, AJ Green is out. I might have to take the L one of these days because he's still sitting on my bench here. But so I think Ryan Finley starting for Cincinnati, like you can't really love that. Wasn't very good in his first game. And Oakland, on the other hand, they've been a pretty good offense. They got some good fantasy players in Jacobs, Waller, and Tyrell Williams. So I think there's some potential in this one.
Yeah, so we have Josh Jacobs, $29 projected for 22% ownership. He's in a great spot. Darren Waller as well, just $21 for tight end. He's had two bad games in a row, but is starting to get it back a little bit. Tyrell Williams might be a sneaky play here, so I don't hate that call as well. Well, if you were stacking this one up and you were pulling out some Derek Carr, $27 Williams, Waller sort of stacks, who are you bringing it back with on the Cincinnati side?
I think the safest bet is Tyler Boyd. I mean, he's lost a ton of money for people this year, but I'm willing to lose some money in one more week here. Alex Erickson, I guess he was. I
think he's questionable.
Yeah, he's questionable. If he plays, that $14 price tag is nice because he's targeted a lot when he's on the field, but because he's third on the depth chart, he doesn't see a ton of snaps every week. If Cincinnati is trailing, he should be on the field more, and maybe he makes a nice value in that scenario.
That is a good point. I mean, Cincinnati is probably going to have to pass the ball to stay in this one. Auden Tate, 100% offensive snap rate. Led the team in routes run last week. Any love for Tate?
Yeah, I think that Tate, Boyd, and Erickson are all pretty appealing. Like the price tags aren't great, but if we're picking on Carr in the stack, then I think that you're going to have to run it back because they're not going to continue throwing the ball a ton unless Cincinnati's putting up points.
Breaking news here as well, according to fantasy football life app, Jay Ajayi, signing with the Philadelphia Eagles, it looks like.
Cool.
And Adam Thielen has been ruled out.
Adam Thielen's out. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man. All right. Cool. Yeah. AJ Green, not looking good. CE looks like he's going to be out as well. Killing my last best ball teams. Anything else in this game? Are you at all high on Darren Waller at all after his 2 bad games in a row? It seems like there's not a lot of great options on this slate for tight end.
Yeah, I think that position just does it for me. Where tight end, even the best tight ends in the league have been having rough years this year, and I'm not sure how many are even on the slate. So Waller's kind of one of my top options there, I think.
Nice. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our 5-game top highest projected totals of the week preview. Alex, tell us a little bit about what we've got going on over at Awesemo.com.
Yeah, so I mean, in addition to all the video content we put out for free, and thank you guys for supporting all that. I mean, you can sign up for the premium package and get all the tools you need to up your game. So we have projections, ownership projections, and also we work in the correlations in the top stacks tool that tells you the percentage chance that each team will be the highest scoring passing offense of the week. And these are really powerful tools that you can add to your arsenal and step up your fantasy game.
I like it. Yeah, one of my favorite tools every week. One of the first places I go on Sunday morning when I start building. So definitely check it out. Sign up. We have packages starting as low as $3.95 per week for your rankings, and of course our premium articles as well. So if you are a novice player and you just want to get started, come on, sign up for the Express. Join us in Slack. Learn a little bit about DFS as well. All right, let's. You want to build some lineups?
Yeah, let's do it. Are we doing cash?
I think we do cash first.
All right, so let's scope out the lobby here.
Easy this week. We're gonna blow through this.
So one thing I'll mention: this 85 out of 100, 10-person, 100-person 50-50. This is like an amazing kind of contest to join because a lot of guys are gonna set it, forget it, and that gives you a huge edge if you're updating your lineup on Sunday.
Yeah, good point. Is there a max entry on that one?
It's one max, so I think that 100 people, that means that the sharps aren't going to be taking up every seat like they might on some other sites.
Nice. Makes sense to me. What do you play? Like, how much cash do you play in a given week? Is it like what's your exposure like? Are you big time cash players in addition to GPPs?
I don't play a lot of cash. I mean, like one of the things I like. It's frustrating for me, like personally, because like I'm putting all my projections out there, so it's like that means I'm not better than anyone else on any week. They can use everything I'm publishing, so
that's fair. You lose your edge.
No, there's still edge because there's people that aren't that good, but it's not quite as fun as maybe it would be.
Makes total sense. All right, let's pull up a Yahoo lineup there. You got it all set for us?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think we can pop in Leonard Fournette right away.
Yeah. Good idea. 23.
Now, is there anyone else? Are there any other running backs that you are looking at? Does the Josh Jacobs? I forgot to mention that was limited on Thursday. That might limit his. If the Raiders get up big in this one, maybe he doesn't see a lot of run. So I might be a little bit worried about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to like interpret that at this point, but be sure to listen to the latest news so that you know all the ins and outs of the injury status of every guy.
All right, Brian Hill, $14. Are we loading him up? Your boy Kalen Ballage.
I think Brian Hill for sure. Kalen Ballage. I mean, maybe not a cash play. I like him more in GPPs because Miami is gonna bust like 100% of the time.
At least you have a pass funnel there where the Buffalo, one of the more pronounced pass funnels, or run funnels, I should say, in the entire NFL, where you can actually run the ball on Buffalo, but you cannot pass it. So it's a conflicting narratives there, right? Like you have a negative game script, but Miami's probably going to be running the ball. So,
well, you talked me into it, man. Let's put Ballage in here. Nah, I'm just kidding.
I don't want to talk anyone ever into playing Kalen Ballage. All right. Quarterback?
All right, let's do it. Yeah, I think the highest projected is probably Lamar. You think? So he'd be reasonable, especially now that we got some value. If we're scrolling down here, Is there anyone jumping out to you as maybe a cheap option?
Let's see here. So it looks like Derek Carr might not be a bad option. $27. Jeff Driscoll, $22. I think that's also not terrible, but the upside isn't great there. Kyler Murray, 10-point dogs, $25. Not bad. I'm comfortable with all those, but we could also pay up and pay down elsewhere. Your call.
I think I like Carr the most. Like they're projected for the most points on the slate, and if you're saving $14 from Lamar Jackson. I don't think there's that big a difference this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we don't really correlate. You don't really worry about correlation too much in these cash lineups, but Darren Waller is probably our best graded tight end as well. So
Nice.
I think there's like at least a little bit of correlation upside there, pairing him up with Carr. But I guess, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
In a 50-50, like since you're just trying to beat the average score, I think that it doesn't really help or hurt you to pair up your receiver with your quarterback because like first of all, like these guys are probably going to be pretty high owned, so you're going to overlap them with a lot of guys.
Right.
So
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, let's move it on. Get some wide receivers here, maybe?
Let's do it.
Okay. So, our top valued guys, well, Manny Sanders is on the Monday. No, never
He's
mind.
playable.
Yeah, but doubtful?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just questionable, but he hasn't practiced yet. We'll find out tomorrow.
I'm guessing he doesn't go. If he doesn't go, do you bump up someone like a Deebo Samuel who kind of had a breakout game last week, just $13?
Yeah, definitely. I think Samuel would be a nice play. He's pretty good even with Sanders in, I think, because George Kittle being out, that should open it up for other guys to get more targets.
I'm gonna guess that Sanders does not go this week. I think if you're not practicing and you got a nagging rib injury, I don't see why they'd play him. But so maybe you want to pop in Samuel and change it up if we don't.
That works. I think that makes sense to me. And they got about 18 wide receivers in San Francisco anyway. They can give Sanders a day off.
Exactly. All right. So we got $24 left. You want to pop in a defense?
That's it. So, kind of going from bottom to top. Is anyone standing out to you?
Minnesota Vikings at home to the. I think Dalvin Cook's also like not a bad play as well at his price point. So that there's probably going to be some correlation. I know you're not worried about it for cash. I got to get the cash mentality out of my head here. So I'd say Minnesota Vikings A grade for points, B for value.
Oh,
Washington,
yeah.
14.
I got one here. The Jets versus Dwayne Haskins.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Haskins has to be like the highest pick thrower in the league this year, right? Although
I was like lamenting that not putting Baltimore in my lineups last week, but then the Jets came through against Danny Fumbles. So
man, that's crazy because Danny had a good game last week too, right?
He did, yeah, he did. He had he had only one turnover, it was a pick six, I guess. But
damn, so it's like stacking the quarterback and defense would have turned out pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so popping in the Jets, we got 4 positions left. Is that right? 2 wide receivers, a flex, and a tight end.
Yeah.
All right, running backs. What about my man? What about Zeke or Cook?
Yeah, I think those are both great options. So it's gonna be hard to really pick a favorite there. I don't know. Is there one way you're leaning?
I think I would lean a little bit towards Zeke.
Okay, I like it.
Just a little bit.
I think, man, I have him so close this week. Of course, I kind of like both matchups too. Like Minnesota going up against Brandon Allen, but Denver's defense is a little bit better than Detroit's, I'd say.
Well, you can always play them both too.
That's true. Yeah. We might have money for that. Should we put in Waller here?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Got the money for that. $27 left per player, so we need to find a spend up option here at wide receiver.
All right, let's do it.
I think. What do you think about Cooper Kupp has a matchup with Chicago, but I don't like the matchup. But without Cooks, that's kind of cool. But
I'm a little bit worried about this, Rams. Like, I don't know if you saw today, we were on the betting show, but they lost their starting right tackle, Rob Havenstein, today. They also lost their starting center. That offensive line is just abysmal. Like, I'm going up against the Bears. I'm wondering if Goff is going to have like more than a second to pass. It's going to be crazy.
Oof. Yeah, you talked me out of it. Not a cash play.
Okay, good. Yeah, I feel like GPP maybe.
So I mean, we go with Amari Cooper maybe. Oh, Julio 29. I think we both kind of concurred that he's a great play this week.
I like that call.
And then we're left with maybe Edelman.
Edelman, yeah, that's great. I like Edelman at that price, especially cash too, right? We only have 0.5 PPR on Yahoo, but still a great spot against Philly. They have a pass funnel, pretty weak secondary, giving up a lot of points to number one wide receivers as well so far this year, but they are starting to get a little bit healthier. So
yeah, I think that works.
Beautiful. I love it.
So I guess we got one more dollar. We could go up to Oakland Raiders versus Cincinnati maybe if we want it. Yeah. Do you think Ryan Finley is better to target or Dwayne Haskins?
That's a good call. I think I don't know.
I kind of like targeting Haskins just because, I mean, I know this fumble thing isn't like the biggest sample here, but let's see. Let me pull up his game log. So he's thrown 4 picks in 44 attempts. That's like 10% of the time he throws a pick.
That's nuts. Yeah, I mean he's coming off a bye. Maybe he's had a little bit of time to work in with the offense a little bit. So
that's true.
I'm like maybe a little bit less, but I think Jets is a great play too. So
all right,
let's fire it in.
Let's put this one in.
Dunzo.
All right, I got my YSRPs here. That's like basically free $10. So
that's awesome.
I think you get, how many YSRPs do you get? Like when you sign up, it's like $30.
$30 worth of YSRPs.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, there's 2 ballers this week. Did you see that? One at $25 and 65K prize pool, and one at $10 for $200K.
Oh my god, double ballers.
All right, let's build our baller lineup here. 1 chalk stack, 1 contrary, and that's how we're going.
I like it.
So I think the chalk stacks probably. I know we could go to the ownership here, but Lamar, I think.
Andrews.
And yeah. Drew Brees, I would imagine, versus Tampa Bay is going to be popular. Is that right?
Let's let me pull up ownership here, and we can take a look at these quarterbacks. Okay, so Lamar 17%, Josh Allen 12%.
Really?
Feels like a cash quarterback to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a bad cash one. I think at $30 against Miami. We'll have to see what Spag says though in his column. Josh Allen whisperer.
That's right.
Yeah, not a lot of chalk to be honest with you. Lamar Jackson is the only chalk really.
Really?
Yeah, and both of these guys are like not great correlation GPP plays. We could obviously go with Lamar, but
yeah. All right, you want to do a Lamar one?
Let's do a Lamar one. Let's see. Let's try and work around it.
So I think at this point we need to put in Andrews because it looks like Brown might not play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, do you are there any other bargains that you might want to stack this with? Marquise Brown questionable, still missing on Thursday. I guess he's out. Willie Snead, does he see an uptick? Is there anybody else? Miles Boykin maybe? Or
I think Snead should be interesting if Brown misses.
Yeah.
But his production this year hasn't been great. So I think we could throw him in as part of the stack, but I'd probably still pick Andrews. What would be your approach?
Yeah, seems fair to me. And then I guess are we bringing it back with DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. 11, 13, 12, and 12 targets for Hopkins so far this year.
Dang. All right.
Running backs.
Should we throw in Fournette?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Fournette's 100% this week, right?
And then maybe how contrarian are we trying to be here? Because I think there's some decent options at running back, like Singletary stands out with that great matchup versus Miami. Joe Mixon last week, he had like 30 rushing attempts. So, yeah, like even when Cincinnati lost, they were just running the ball a crazy amount. What do you think about Mixon?
Let's see, what's his ownership at here? Mixon, $17, 6%. I like that call, man. Like, why not?
All right.
He had 30. I did not know that. He had 30 rushing attempts for 114 yards. That's going to catch people off guard, man.
That's bizarre because they were down like the whole game.
Although, yeah, like were they just giving up? Like I didn't get I was just watching Red Zone there, so I didn't really see the game. But like, why would you run Mixon? Like it must have been a case of like they quit. Like I don't get it.
There's no good explanation other than maybe Ryan Finley's that bad. They just didn't want to like hurt his confidence too much.
It's not like Oakland's the greatest run defense ever, so I love that call, man.
All right, awesome. Now we gotta find someone like cheap at wide receiver to make this all work.
All right. Well,
Zach Pascal.
Yeah.
He without T.Y. Hilton, he's kind of the number one guy in Indianapolis. I don't love it though.
Chester Rogers also the bare minimum, but let me just check the
Russell Gage, $12.
Russell Gage 12, Deebo Samuel 13. I think if Sanders is out, Zach Pascal is also a great play. I think just clearly the de facto number one there with Hilton out for sure.
Yeah, we need to go with someone a little bit low owned because I think these guys so far are pretty popular. So what do we have Pascal's ownership for?
Let's see here.
I think Robert Woods also could be interesting. I mean, the matchup's tough, but $16 without Cooks.
Okay. $16, no Cooks. Yeah, Josh Reynolds too, maybe.
Yeah.
Who's that? Let's see here. So we got low owned Kenny Golladay.
Okay.
4%. Terry McLaurin. That's kind of surprising.
What's he,
1% ownership.
What's his? Oh, he's 19.
Yeah, $19. Like, I don't know, not bad. Will Fuller 0.3% ownership. We could get rid of Hopkins and bop him in.
Well, that's probably because people will think he might not play. If he's playing,
it'll
go up a ton.
Good point. Yeah, that will obviously go up. Deebo Samuel 5%. Larry Fitzgerald 2%. Just throwing names at you if you hear one you like. Russell Gage isn't getting much. He's only 3% owned.
I like the Fitzgerald call because Kirk was the blow up last week, and now maybe everyone will be leaning towards Kirk. Where if we go with Fitz, maybe it'll be contrarian.
As well, like he avoids a matchup with Richard Sherman, it looks like. Quan Williams has been banged up in the slot for the 49ers, and he still had 8 targets and 71 yards last week. It's not like he's been totally phased out of this offense, so fire it up.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's do it.
$13 is a bargain.
Yeah, that's insane.
Defense?
All right, defense. Should we go chalk or contrarian on this one?
Up to you.
I think a contrarian one might be the Washington defense versus Darnold.
I like that.
We know that he's not the greatest player, and Washington's defense, they're about average, so I don't think they'll stand out to people.
That makes sense to me. I'm still a little bit sad we cannot get to we can get to Dalvin Cook in the flex if we got a $10 wide receiver.
I think we can make that happen.
So, yikes. Chester Rogers.
We'll figure this out. Chester Rogers is playable, I think.
Robert Foster didn't suck.
Oh, Albert Wilson.
Albert.
I have him kind of playable this week. I don't love it, but
oh my God, poor man, he just killed me this year.
Yeah,
most owned best ball guy, most owned. So sad. Miles Boykin, Kike Kute, if I don't know.
The Arizona guys, Bird and Johnson. I think was Bird the one that was inactive last week.
Yeah, I think so. Looks like Albert Wilson and Alan Hearns are your 2 best bets at $10 according to your rankings right now.
So that I think either one we go with probably gonna be pretty low on. So
Why don't we go? I got another one though. Why don't we just go Gage and spend down a little bit of D, or is
all
that
right,
not?
yeah, let's do it. And then we got Tampa Bay versus New Orleans, Miami versus Buffalo. We gotta go with Miami versus Buffalo, right?
I don't think that's the first time anyone's ever said we got to go with the Miami Dolphins defense here.
I mean, like, he's the only quarterback that, like, of this group that will throw a lot of picks. So
You're right.
That'd be my play.
All right, it's contrarian.
All right. I'm not making a bad lineup. It's just contrarian.
I like it. All right.
All right. Now we gotta go to our contrarian stack.
Contrarian stack. Okay, let me pull this up here.
I think maybe Garoppolo would be interesting. Like, what's his ownership at?
Wow, was not expecting that. Jimmy Garoppolo, 2%.
I mean, if Arizona can hang in this game, which is a big if, you gotta like the matchup, and I really like that. Maybe Sanders is out, and we can get all these guys on the cheap.
Who are you pairing him up with though? Like, is it Debo? Is it?
Yeah.
Is that it?
This one's easy for me because Ross Dwally, he ran routes on 3/4 of the plays last week, and he's the minimum. So I think people might have heard his name in Showdown, but they might not click him in DFS.
That's not a bad call. Yeah. Do you want to double stack and go like Debo and him, or just one?
That's how I'm leaning here. Tell me if I'm crazy.
I mean, I like the logic behind it. I guess like you got a paced up matchup. You got a big favorite. And like Christian Kirk is also really cheap. So this is not only contrarian but also a bargain. So I do like that aspect of it for sure.
All right, thanks, man. I was hoping you would say I'm not crazy.
Man, and that means we can just get in all of our favorite running backs here, I think.
All right, let's do it.
You want him?
So that'd be Fournette, Cook, and Zeke.
Yeah, that's very doable.
You gotta like that.
And then, man, we still got enough for like a good wide receiver.
This is great, man. Like you gotta.
This is a great lineup.
Well, I think maybe Diggs without Thielen. We haven't seen a ton yet, but
Diggs and Cook though.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you good point. There's some negative correlation there, so that's not a great.
What about our boy Julio?
Yeah, Julio that's a good pick.
And we still got $13 left over to get the Miami Dolphins defense in.
All right, nice. So,
what about Indianapolis defense taking on like a returning Nick Foles? Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely sneaky, but is Foles like a big pick thrower? I'm not.
No.
All right.
Not really.
Dolphins
again.
Do we have Dolphins in the last one, or
yeah? We
okay, so let's go with let's spin up a little bit here. So maybe Oakland versus Finley.
I think we only have $13 left though.
Wait, I must be missing one of the wideouts. Who's our third wideout?
Oh, I put Debo in, but
Debo,
we don't have
Julio, and who?
Christian Kirk, bringing it back.
Oh, Kirk. Okay, cool.
He's cheap this week.
We could go with Fitz again, but I think that Kirk's probably the safer play here. And then we
improved.
I mean, Houston defense, they're not as good as Miami this week, I think. What do you think?
I'll give you a lot. I'm good on that.
All right. So,
Tampa?
No. Man, I feel good about this Miami defense. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm just insane. All right.
That's gonna do it. We got our two lineups. We finished perfectly on time there. So we'll be splitting the baller top prize with anyone who's listening. That's gonna do it for us this week. We'll be back as well next Friday. Tomorrow we have On the Contrary 1 o'clock East. 2. Why can't I ever remember what time On the Contrary is? I schedule it at 2 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah.
Is that right?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock Eastern. On the Contrary, we have TJ Hernandez from 4 for 4 Football joining Alex Baker and Chris Spags. The NFL Morning Show is on as well with Chris Randone and Sal Vetri. Tonight or today, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock, we have the hockey show with Jake Hardy and myself. And of course, we have the deeper dive and live before lock for all your NBA needs before the NBA starts. So check it on out. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.